All right, back on the Young Turks. Look, the tide is shifting, and people are beginning to understand that President Obama is not a fighter for the progressive priorities. As I say it, I chuckle. Obama, a fighter for progressive priorities. That's a good one. But some people have still not caught on. Now, this is just a reader on one of the blogs, but Josh Marshall on Talking Points Memo highlighted it, saying, hey, look, this is the other side, right? And the other side says that President Obama got a great deal. So what's their argument? I love this. Couple of things. First, he says, the president kept revenues on the table. This is a reader called just RW, okay? He kept revenues on the table. What does that mean? We didn't get any revenues. But don't worry, they're still on the table. They're just all the way on that side of the table, and we're never going to touch them. It's amazing. I like what people stretch to come up with excuses for Obama. So the revenues are apparently on some sort of table somewhere, okay? Not that we're ever going to see them. And he says, look, it's all the Democrats' fault. Because if you guys had come out and voted for Democrats, and by Democrats he doesn't mean elected officials, those guys are gods. He means the Democratic voters, progressive liberals. It's your fault. He said, if you had just come out and voted in 2010, none of this would have happened. He said, once the Republicans won the House, quote, it was inevitable that this crap was going to happen. Okay? Inevitable. As soon as they get 1/3 of the government, well, obviously we had to do a complete and utter collapse and give them 100% of what they wanted. And you might be wondering, hey, why am I quoting a reader on a thing and da-da? It's because you can't find any more progressives who are on President Obama's side and think this was a swell deal. I'll give you the last piece of this argument, and then I'll go to one of the president's usual defenders, I'll be honest, and see where he comes out on it. He said, the vaunted GOP message, discipline, broke down. And he explains that, look, we got the Republicans to fight against each other. The Tea Party versus the Boehner side. And then what? Like, this is one of those Washington talking points that nobody ever even thinks about. Like, why does it make sense? They're like, if they're fighting internally, that's a bad thing. No, but they fought internally and then got 100% of what they wanted. So apparently that fighting internally was awesome. Got them the results they wanted. Like, he doesn't bother to put a second thought behind it. Like, was it a good thing or a bad thing? And he says, oh, no, I can see people flocking to former Republicans he claims are flocking to vote for Democrats now because the Republicans have internal squabbling and they look so unreasonable. No, they look like winners because they got everything they wanted. So that is the best defense I could find online, and it sucks. Okay, if you got a better one, email us. I'm all ears. Whether it's yours or you found an article that you thought was effective, email us at theyoungturks.com. All right, now, Nate Silver is a guy who is really smart, has some great analysis and numbers, et cetera. But time and time again, I've seen him say, well, you know, the health care bill doesn't look great and the liberals didn't get what they wanted. But on the other hand, if you look at the third clause of the 13th paragraph of the 187th page, it's actually not as bad as it looks. That particular clause. The rest of it, not so good, right? And I've seen like at least 3-4 instances of this. He does it again in this case. And he says, well, look, those spending cuts that they're going to get in the second round, the $1.5 trillion, they're actually half in defense. Look, if they're cutting defense, fantastic, right? He says progressives should be in favor of that. I am in favor of that. We waste far too much money on defense. You think those are going to happen, Nate? They're not going to happen. He says, no, it's okay. Either they're going to happen or they're going to raise taxes. No, they're not. It's like they don't. Nate's a really smart guy, man, and he's knee deep in this stuff, and I can't believe he can't see it. I can't believe that they can't all see it. They're not going to do any of that. He thinks the Democrats have the advantage in the next round. How is that possible? I'm looking at JR and Jesus. How is that possible that anybody would think that? No, in every single round, the Democrats will have a tremendous disadvantage, which is that they are Democrats. So no matter how good, no matter if they have the White House and the Senate, and they have the Republicans who said we have to raise the debt ceiling, it doesn't matter. They'll wind up with a 100% loss anyway. So when they go to the Super Congress, they're going to get rolled, man. They're going to get... All right, I'm going to bring it back in. I was going to go over the top. But even Nate, this is a part of the reason I brought it up, even Nate concedes. Towards the end of the article, he says, quote, overall, the deal seemed to serve to confirm the worst suspicions held by some Democrats. First, that the White House is unwilling to drive a hard bargain or is poor at negotiation. And second, that it is loath to stand up for liberal values or has inherently conservative policy preferences. Wow. When Nate Silver is beginning to wonder if the White House actually has conservative principles. I don't think the White House has any sense of how mad progressives are about this and how conventional wisdom is shifting. They thought they were going to be perceived as genius centrists. Instead, they are perceived as anywhere from weak to pathetic, and pathetic is a word that I'm not using. Several other commentators, established ones, have used. It is harsh, but it is true. Now, having said all this, well, obviously, the president must have gotten an advantage through this for his presidential campaign, right? Because, I mean, he was so reasonable and centrist. Probably Romney, his main, most likely opponent in the race, will ease up on him now, right? Okay, now you're beginning to follow along. Here comes Mitt Romney. Quote, President Obama's leadership failure has pushed the economy to the brink at the 11th hour and 59th minute. While I appreciate the extraordinarily difficult situation President Obama's lack of leadership has placed Republican members of Congress in, I personally cannot support this deal. So the president is bad at leadership, he's weak, and even this deal where the president gave them every single stinking thing that they wanted, Romney says not good enough. Too easy, drill sergeant, way too easy. So Paul Lenti, his mealy-mouthed, of course, the scared weakling that he is, he says, you know, there are parts of this deal that concern me. Which, are you in favor of the deal or against the deal? My God, man. You know, you do all those ads where you're like a political superhero, and then when it comes to crunch time, they already made the deal. What's your opinion on it? Paul Lenti's like, well, on the one hand, I kind of don't like it. On the other hand, I don't know. You're the worst. Bachmann, you know how Bachmann's going to come out. She says it's a disaster, and Obama's ruined the country, et cetera, et cetera. So, shockingly enough, his Republican opponents did not view this deal as centrist. I didn't see that coming. I thought they were going to lay down. I thought they were going to take it easy on Obama. Okay, now, let's talk about the most important thing. So, as opinion has begun to turn, and that is the only good news that comes out of this debt ceiling deal, that opinion is turning among progressives. It's not just Paul Krugman who says, that's it, you know, this guy is the worst negotiator in the world, or he's on the other side. It's not just Nate Silver, of all people in New York Times, suggesting that. It's not just Robert Reich. It's not just Howard Feynman, but all those people have spoken out. All of the commentators, et cetera, seem to be on the side of, well, I can't believe how bad this deal is. Apparently the only one who could believe it is me, because I told you it was coming based on previous experience. But now, more importantly, some of President Obama's most avid supporters have begun to turn in Congress. Now, just last week, we told you several quotes from Representative Cleaver, who is the head of the Congressional Black Caucus, supporting the president and saying, hey, listen, you know, if we criticize the president, that helps Republicans, and, you know, he's doing the best he can in these tough times. Apparently, he no longer thinks that, because get a load of clip number 5.
You have been quoted coming out of your caucus as calling this agreement a sugar-coated Satan sandwich. Was that indeed your quote? Is that how you feel about this deal?
It's a very accurate quote. What I'm saying is that if you lift the bomb, what you see is antithetical to everything the great religions of the world teach, which is take care of the poor, take care of the aged. And when you look at the phone calls I've gotten, they're 7 to 1 in favor of a balanced deal, and also preserving Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. We're going to be extremely non-committed, but on the surface, it looks like a Satan sandwich.
That's a unique way of putting it. Representative Cleaver is also a United Methodist minister, and that makes sense. There's another term for an S sandwich. And he's saying, you're going to make me eat this sugar-coated S sandwich after I backed you all this way? Okay? If he's lost Cleaver, for the people who are paying attention, he's lost almost all of the real progressives. Now, look, half the Democrats in the House voted for the president. But a lot of people, just because calls himself a Democrat, they just salute. Do they mean it? And look, half of them are at least corporatists, so they probably do believe it. But as far as real progressives, he's lost them, man. John Conyers was the first person in Congress to endorse Senator Obama for president. First one. You can't get a bigger supporter of the president. And I talked to him personally several months ago, and he was still at the place where he was severely disappointed. But you know what? The Republicans are worse, so we got to do the best we can in helping President Obama achieve re-election. That is no longer where he is. Watch.
I say we've got to educate the American people at the same time that we educate the President of the United States. Because the Republicans, the Speaker Boehner or Majority Leader Cantor did not call for Social Security cuts in the budget deal. The President of the United States called for that. And my response to him is to mass thousands of people in front of the White House to protest this.
Congressman Conyers goes from saying, hey, we got to support the president, make sure Republicans don't win, to saying we should have mass protests in front of the White House to show him that we do not support him. This is not the right way to go. What broke his back on that? You heard what he said. He said the Republicans didn't propose Social Security cuts during these negotiations. The president did. Why in the world did he do that? And if he's on that side, well, then I'm not with him because he's not really on my side, no matter what he calls himself. He continues.
Well, we've got the bill in here again, and I've got nothing from the White House. So what I am suggesting doing is what we had to do in the labor movement. What Obama hasn't said to us is make him do it, but we got to make him do it. Now, there's only one way to do it, is for the president. I was the first member of Congress to come out for the 44th president. We've got to march on him. He'll be before the Congressional Black Caucus on September 21st, and we want him to know from this day forward, starting with the initiative of the Out of Poverty Caucus, that we've had it.
From this day forward, we've had it. We've got to do a march on him. That is from the first person in Congress to endorse Barack Obama. We've had it. There's only so much he could take. And believe me, he already thought he was taking a lot and didn't realize that this guy is not going to do any of these progressive priorities. One final one from Congressman Conyers.
We're suffering, and unless we take this economic downturn, unless we take this opportunity, this tragedy, and turn it into an opportunity by getting the legislation through, we'll be drifting here till next year. And he'll be wondering where all of the people that were so enthusiastic 3 years ago have went.
That is exactly right. President Obama is going to look around in 2012 and be like, hey, where did everybody go? Oh, what? When I said change? Oh, by the way, can I just say, somebody on, I believe it was on YouTube, online, had a great line. It turns out when President Obama said change, he meant that he would change from a Democrat to a Republican. So that's the change he meant. And so when he looks around in 2012, he's going to be like, what happened? What happened? Well, what changed was that people realized you didn't mean it, that you weren't on our side. If Congressman Conyers recognizes that, you have no idea how many people recognize that. They still think they're so clever over at the White House that they're going to dupe everybody, and they're going to get all the progressives and liberals who were excited in 2008 to vote for him again when he didn't deliver on all of his promises. Not forget all of his promises, nearly on any of his promises. Are you kidding me? Our standard is nowhere near all of his promises. We might have taken 20%. We might have taken 10%. Not only did we get 5% on the good stuff, well, the warrantless wiretapping, the tax cuts for the rich, et cetera, he went in the wrong direction. Congressman Conyers isn't alone. We're all upset about this, and we all get it, and we've all had it. Okay, in the next hour, we actually have one piece of good news, because we are the most open-minded and reasonable show in the world. From the Obama administration, they're going to do something right. We'll share that with you in this next hour. All right, come right back. All right, back on the Young Turks. Loads of incredible stories for you guys. Go.
Health officials in Vancouver are planning on passing out free crack pipes as a way to prevent people from transmitting HIV and hepatitis.
Fun.
They're having a huge problem with it. So health officials are like, look, we're not going to stop them from taking crack. Why don't we provide them with clean pipes? That way they don't transmit the disease.
Yeah, at first it's jarring, right? I see the headline and I think, really? Free crack pipes? I mean, I'm a lib, but that sounds pretty out there, right? Then you think about it a little bit. And has anybody ever smoked crack because they had a free crack pipe?
Oh my God, hell no. I mean, you read this story. If someone was passing out free crack pipes, somebody came into this office right now and said, hey, free crack pipes, there's no way I would ever even consider smoking crack.
That's my point. It's not like you were like, I'm really on the edge here. I can go one way or another. I can go home and play Parcheesi, or I could smoke crack. Oh, free crack pipe. Well, that puts me over the top. I'm going to smoke crack.
Even if they had a 2-for-1 deal, free crack pipe with a box of chocolates, I still wouldn't take it. And I love chocolate, okay?
Wow, that's saying a lot. Anna will not do crack, even if you throw in free chocolate. Okay, so then, you get to a situation where you've got people who are already obviously addicted to crack. Mm-hmm. Are you going to expose them to more disease or you're not? And by the way, the other advantage of this is that when they come in to get it, they're exposed to healthcare professionals who might talk to them about, if they want to, about their choices and how they can get out of it, et cetera. And it's such a clinical environment that, this certainly doesn't seem cool or anything like that. And maybe as a small advantage of being able to certainly keep them, away from disease, which is a big advantage, actually, and then a small advantage of possibly getting them out of their situation. But I don't think anybody is pushed over the top to smoke crack because of free pipes.
Right, exactly. Another thing that they're considering in Vancouver, and this type of legislation has not passed yet, but they're considering it, they want to create areas where people can do the drugs in front of healthcare professionals. That way, if they overdose or anything, doctors can immediately jump in and save their lives. Which, the thought of that happening in the United States just blows my mind.
Yeah, well, that's inconceivable. But the thing is, you're in the wrong place if you've got a healthcare professional to help you in case you are about to die.
I know.
Perhaps you shouldn't be going in there to do that in the first place, and maybe that gets them to think about it a little
right.
bit. Look, these are on the margins because once you're addicted, it's apparently incredibly hard to stop. And in the immortal words of Whitney Houston, of course, you must remember that crack is whack.
Absolutely.
That was Whitney Houston, wasn't it?
It was.
Okay, yes.
During an interview with Oprah. Am I right or am I wrong? I don't know.
I know that she wouldn't do that because crack is whack.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Apparently she's done other things, though. Let alone. Anyway.
All right. Here's the good news of the day. And there hasn't been a lot of good news, but this is good. Insured women in the United States will now have free breast cancer screenings, and they will also get free contraception.
It seems too good to be true.
I know. So this is what happened. So I read the story, and I'm like, no. There's no way politicians would pass this because they care about people, right? So what are their incentives? How did people incentivize this? I'm like, pharmaceutical companies. That's what it has to be. They want to make sure that insurance companies purchase the birth control pills for their clients or for their customers, and then their customers have to take it. Or don't have to take it, but have access to it.
It's not a bad point. Having said that, look, I'll take a win any way we can get it. And I don't even care about their motives. It's definitely a positive result. And of course, some people are complaining, conservatives, Republicans, like, oh my God, this will get passed on to the consumer. The current estimates are that it will not, right?
No,
because
it will
it's such
not.
a small cost that it's just probably likely to have the plans remain probably the same price that they are now. But even if they did, now obviously I don't take birth control pills, right, because I'm a man. But if it got passed on to me with a small increase in my payments because we wanted to have more birth control pills out there, I would love it. Because in fact, it'll probably lower my bills in the future because then we don't have to pay for unintended pregnancies, which cost so much more. Plus, women get access to something that they should get access to. That's important for their health care, let alone everything else. Plus, if I'm single, I want the woman that I'm having sex with to be able to have access to birth control pills. Otherwise, we're going to have even more trouble, right?
Exactly.
So it makes sense for everybody. And look, on a day where we have a lot of bad news coming out of the White House, it's nice to have at least a little bit of good news. They've actually done something right for the country and certainly right for women.
Absolutely. And I was actually going to mention the fact that it costs our country more in tax dollars in helping those with unwanted pregnancies. So I love that you brought up that point. This is actually going to save us money in the long run, which is why it was recommended that by a bipartisan group that the Obama administration passed this.
Right. One last note. Republicans are fighting against it not only because they claim that the cost is going to get passed on to us, but because it might cover the morning after pill, and then so they were like, oh my God, that's kind of abortion. But the reality is they actually hate birth control pills because they're among the 1% of Americans who are against birth control.
Just think about how disingenuous they are about everything, okay? They're disingenuous about how they're pro-life, okay? Because if you're pro-life, you would want to prevent unwanted pregnancies. So you want to give people access to birth control, right? Also, if you care about the economy and you care about being fiscally conservative or you care about, getting us out of the deficit, you'd want to do whatever it takes to save us money. Why should we spend $11 billion a year in helping those with unwanted pregnancies because of your morality?
Yeah, because they don't care about any of that stuff. How many times do Republicans have to demonstrate that they couldn't give a flying, about the deficit? They don't, or the budget. They don't care about any of that. They just small government. They hate small government. They love big government. That's going to get between you and your uterus, and apparently between you and your pill, birth control pills, and you and your Johnson. That's what the Republican Party's in favor of. Keep it real, and if it adds to the cost and it leads to more abortions, who cares? It's a good thing we've got somebody fighting really hard against them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A white supremacist is a principal at Our Lady of Mount Catholic School in the Bronx.
Yes, his name is Frank Borzilleri, and he is a very questionable gentleman. He says that he has fought against anti-American things in the past, including
Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes, he wanted to ban a biography of Martin Luther King Jr. because he was worried that it was un-American. Not that there was anything wrong with the book, but that Martin Luther King Jr. was un-American. But in case you were unclear about that, he goes on to say that diversity is a weakness. That's a quote. And of course, the school is, as we are pointing out here, heavily black and Latino. So this guy being the principal should be awesome. He says the rising black and Hispanic populations in America will lead to a, quote, a new dark age. Okay. Now, when they asked him about it, when they asked the pastor at Mount Carmel, Reverend Eric Repeglia, hey, did you know about this guy's views? And I expected him to say, oh, whoa, I didn't know that. Well, that's okay. My bad. Look, we'll look into it, but
it's my mistake and my bad.
I'm
sorry.
My mistake and I'm sorry. No such thing. He says, yeah, I knew of his views.
I don't agree with all of them per se. But.
Yeah. And he said, I didn't see any cause for concern. Really? And I thought, well, he must not have seen the racial views, right? Maybe he's referring to other things. Of course, this guy is totally against gay couples. Maybe the pastor agrees with that, yada, yada, right? But he says this, quote, this is the guy who hired him. Do I agree with all of it? No. But I think much of it is valuable and logical and reasonable. A lot of his ideas would actually benefit minorities.
Oh. Come on.
So he definitely knows his ideas about minorities, and he thinks it's fantastic and would benefit them to know how dark they are and how they're going to lead America into the dark ages and how the guy who fought for their civil rights is anti-American. That could really benefit minorities. I see what he's saying.
Here's what I got from this story, okay? It's disastrous. It's a private school, so what are you going to do, right? We cannot privatize all our schools. We can't privatize our schools. What are we going to do? I mean, you can't have the government jump in and fire this guy. It's a private company, basically.
Right. No, I hear you. Now, look, of course, private schools are also allowed, and so here in this case, I think the parents have to take action. And obviously, some of the parents are concerned that the person running the school and then the principal have these views. Should the principal be fired? Absolutely. If he's trying to educate black and Latino students and he doesn't like blacks and Latinos, it's a bit of an issue. And in fact, one of the parents quoted, who is from Jamaican background, said, look, we were wondering why he was acting the way that he did. It seemed like he seemed to, be really harsh towards our kids and specifically to black kids in their perception. But now that we see this, we're like, oh my God, okay, I get it. It makes sense, right? Obviously, this guy can't be the principal. It's the most obvious thing in the world. But I would go further and say the pastor's got to go. I mean, the pastor who said, yeah, I know those views, they rock. I bet minorities could learn a thing or two about how inferior they are. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd keep that guy employed. I'm, of course, joking. I'm very sure that I would not keep him employed. So they got to regulate on that. Look, we've had a lot of stories where in these kind of school situations where it's a close call,
This is not a close call.
And I'm usually the one, you're the hanging judge. I'm usually the one that's like, well, let's give him a second chance. Let's suspend him for a while. Blah, blah, blah. This one is a no-brainer, man. You're gone. Not even close.
All right, parents and politicians in England are outraged at a pole dancing class that offers classes to young girls as young as 7 years old. Now, what's interesting about this story is the parents allow their young girls to go to these pole dancing classes, and then pictures are taken, and the pictures are put up on Facebook with the parents' consent. Okay, so the parents of these girls are completely fine with it. The people who are outraged are parents who have absolutely nothing to do with the situation.
I'm in an interesting situation here, because if you told me, hey, would you like your 7-year-old daughter to go take pole dancing classes? I would say no. And look, it's just a pole. It doesn't have to mean anything, but we do know the context. The context is that, in our society, strippers use poles. Now, so do firemen, but we know this trend of this. In fact, we've covered it on the Young Turks for the last 9 years. I remember when they first started doing pole dancing parties in Beverly Hills. Some of the celebrities' wives would have their friends over, and they're like, isn't it funny that we're acting like strippers? And then they would demonstrate for their husbands, and they would love. So we know where this came from, right? So if you ask me, should my underage daughter go to that, I'd say hell no, right? But am I going to protest or demand things when other people's kids go to it? Hey, look, if you think it's a fireman's pole and you want your kids to dance on it, or whatever pole you think it is, I guess have at it,
It's one of those situations where it's not your place. If people want to be bad parents, then let them be bad parents. Look, I think that if you have those pictures of your 7-year-old girl dancing on a pole and you post it up online, or you allow it to be posted online, that's a bad idea. Okay? Because there are just too many perverts on the internet. There are too many perverts in the world, okay? You just don't want those pictures up there, right? But you're a parent and you get to make that judgment call. And I have absolutely no place in trying to decide what you do and what you do not do.
Yeah, I wonder about that too, because I don't know that those pictures are, like, to an objective person, I don't know that they're necessarily sexual, right? Like, I get what you're saying. Again, if it's my kid, do I want pictures of her out there like that because of all the crazy? I wouldn't, right? But at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily, like, those guys are so crazy. If you have any pictures of kids online, period, whether they're next to a pole or not next to a pole, you know what I'm saying? So it's a tough, weird world, that we live in. It's tough to regulate based on what that guy is going to do. But look, it's everybody's call. We live in a free country or in a free society.
I think it's pretty straightforward. If you take pictures of your kid in some nightie and put it on the internet, that's kiddie porn. I mean, maybe some people go, oh my God, what's this little girl doing in a little negligee? But some guys get off on it because they're weird and they're pedophiles. It's straightforward. That's child endangerment. This kid didn't choose to wrap her legs around a pole and swing around and stick her ass out. Whatever it is they're doing. But if it's actually pole dancing, it's pole dancing, and there's no two definitions for it. Maybe your booty in the air doesn't mean what booty in the air means.
Right.
But
You're saying that firemen use poles, but they don't dance on poles. Right? As far as we know.
there's like you said, there's England and whatever, but I'm sure there's rules against kiddie porn in England, and then there's child endangerment laws in England. This is child endangerment, man. You're putting them in a place where they didn't ask to be, and in a position where people who tend to abduct and kill them
I think you're getting a little carried away. But look, my real question is the pole the equivalent of negligee? Okay, because if it is, and you put your kids in lingerie or something, I'm with JR. You shouldn't put that online, right? But I don't think the pole necessarily equals that.
I think it does, and it's really hard to picture it because we're not showing you guys pictures right now. But pole dancing is very sexual. I mean, obviously, right? And I think that's a benign picture. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, and that's an adult.
Right, and that's an adult. But I mean, I'm just thinking about a little kid dancing in the way a stripper would dance, and you don't want to put those pictures because it's sexually suggestive, just like a negligee is.
All right, Chief Justice, what do you think?
I think on JR is not as far, but I definitely wouldn't want it. I definitely wouldn't have my kid do it. I wouldn't want to be involved in any of that.
All right, we got to do a Supreme Court ruling here. Okay, are we banning it?
I'm not gonna ban it because, like I said, it's not my place.
Just putting up the pictures.
Putting up the pictures?
Online.
I'm not gonna ban it.
I'm not banning it. What do we have over there?
Good.
I'm banning it.
Totally.
Wow! Supreme Court is split. We got to go to the jury. All right, you guys are going to have to decide, poll on Facebook. Should you ban underage girls' pictures from being put online if they're doing pole dancing? Go.
I'm a little amazed that we're having this debate at all. This is amazing to me.
You know
Really?
why? I'll tell you why I voted that way. I'm glad you asked because I really want to clarify. Because I don't see it as child porn. Like you do, I'm assuming, right? But I don't see it as child porn. I think that it puts the young girl in a bad light, and I think that it gives pervy wankers a lot of bad thoughts. But look, pervy wankers do get bad thoughts on anything. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, are you going to ban your kid's Sunday school outfit because some pervy wankers are into Sunday school outfits?
But I wouldn't sexualize my daughter, though. And
No, but
Neither would
I
I.
agree.
Neither would
But
I.
we're all
But
agreed
no,
on that.
No, yeah, but like I think by putting those images of the pole sexualizes a 7-year-old.
I know, I wouldn't do it. But I'm saying, like, if other people do it, I don't think it's an automatic assumption that they're sexualizing them. That's why I'm not banning it. Okay. Now, it's okay because this issue has already gone to the people, and they will decide. Okay?
we report, you decide.
It's a rare situation where the TYT Supreme Court splits. Yeah. Okay.
It's also rare that we're okay with pedophiles checking out girls.
Oh, man, Justice Jackson will not let it go.
and saying that, oh, well, they're going to look at him anyway, so let pedophiles run around. If they're moving in your neighborhood, we have a red dot and say, there, this asshole lives here. Watch out for your kids. They're wearing jeans and a T-shirt because he's a fucking pedophile. But, I mean, if you're putting pictures of your kid on a bed with some kind of, even if there's PJs on, that's fucked up. Don't put that around. That's total child
But that's
endangerment.
exactly my point. You see? Then people are going to say, oh, well, it's not negligee, but it's pajamas.
Yeah.
And we can't have people that are into pajamas. But you know what? Kids are in pajamas all the time.
We're not
And we have a million
posting it.
pictures of them.
We're not posting it going, check
Do
it out.
people put it on Facebook?
Check it out.
No, come on, get out of here.
Check out my daughter laying across this pillow.
See?
Ugh,
No,
that's
you see,
disgusting.
I think the audience can see that Justice Jackson has gone too far. Okay, and I think he has done damage to his own case. I'm
Just
putting
for
it
the
out there.
record, I'm not that far. All right, guys.
Okay.
Just for the
So
record.
he's
man.
Just so what, please write it down.
Chief Justice Godoy has a concurring opinion, but he dissents in part. Okay, just so we're clear, he's fine with kids.
Have you ever gone to the strip
He
club
won't let it go.
and said, you know what? Oh my God, you know what? I'm glad she's wearing that big coat and the big baggy sweatpants because this is totally not sexually suggestive at all.
Here's another
It is.
relevant point. Okay, the young girls are not scantily clad. They're wearing regular workout clothes. So that's another important aspect of the story that I should have mentioned.
And the purpose is what? Exercise?
They claim that
They got this thing called gymnastics. Maybe you heard of it before.
They actually consider it gymnastics.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything, Philip. But
No, dude, if you go any further, he's going to ban all gymnastics. Okay, he's going to say only adults can do gymnastics. I mean, come on,
dude.
Here he goes. Here he goes.
If your
The
kid,
uneven bars.
if your kid
Hello,
is,
they're uneven. Think about it.
if your kid is in a gymnastics class and there's some dude in the corner rubbing his chin watching, you're like, what the fuck? What are you looking at, dude? And it's very basic. Gymnastics is cool stuff. If you
Nobody's
put
in the corner watching them do the
You're
pole
putting
dance.
stuff on the internet, man. This is fucked up. It's horrible. I don't know.
Okay,
This
all
is
right.
so- okay, I'll stop. I'm sorry. I'm amazed.
Okay, there's no question. We've got loud and clear that you're amazed. All right. Well, let's see how the people decide. All right.
Next story.
Next story.
The Princeton.
But what? I'm sorry.
No, come on. What do they call that thing? I keep wanting to calling it the pummeling horse, but that can't be what it is. What's the horse that they jump off of?
I think it's like pommel horse.
Pommel horse.
Yeah.
Wait till you got kids on pommel horses. This guy's gonna go crazy. Kids on a pommel horse. It's called a pommel horse. What do you think they do with it? All right. Anyway, what's next?
The Princeton Review released their top 10 party schools, and we have the list for you guys. We've obtained it.
Yes, we have by going online. Yes. All right. Coming in at
number 9 is the University of Florida.
We've curiously left out number 10.
I didn't write it down in my notes. I'm sorry. But we're going to give you the top 9.
Okay.
Good enough.
Okay.
University of Florida.
Makes sense. It's in Florida. All they do is party in Florida.
Number 8, Florida State University.
My case is proven.
Number 7, interesting, Penn State University.
Well, that's going to go to my general thesis on why the top schools are as they are and why you won't find USC, UCLA, NYU, or any of the big schools in New York or LA on this list. But Penn State is in a remote part of Pennsylvania, as most people know. And then we go.
All right. Number 6 is West Virginia University. Number 5 is the University of California at Santa Barbara, which makes sense. I'm surprised they're not higher up on the list.
Yeah, everybody in this neck of the woods, Southern California, knows Santa Barbara is a huge party school.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's gorgeous. And if I had to do it over again, that's where I might go. Anyway.
University of Iowa comes in at number 4. The University of Mississippi comes in at number 3. And number 2, University of Georgia, which was number 1 on the list last year. They're falling behind a little bit. Pick up those kegs. Wait, you don't pick up kegs, right?
Well, unless you're really strong.
Obviously, I did not go to a party school.
Yeah, very obvious.
Pick up those kegs.
And just drink those alcoholic beverages. Okay, which, by the way, you're technically not supposed to do. We denounce and reject that kind of action at universities. And then finally, coming in at number 1.
Ohio University.
And that's not Ohio State. That's Ohio University.
Ohio University in Athens, Ohio.
Yeah, remote part of Ohio, relatively speaking. So here's my thesis. You get places like University of Iowa, University of West Virginia, Ohio University, because there's nothing else to do there. If you were in Iowa, you'd get shit-faced. Okay, and these people, they put together nice parties.
Especially Halloween parties. Their Halloween parties are world-renowned.
Apparently at Ohio University, I didn't know that, but now they're world-renowned.
Yeah.
You know what I read and made me want to go to them.
Totally.
I was like, man, that must be some kicking parties.
Just to give you an example of all the issues they have, apparently in the 2010-2011 school year, there were more than 1,200 complaints regarding alcohol.
That's awesome.
Jeez.
Okay, now look, we're supposed to be against underage drinking. Here's the problem. We're not, okay? I believe the drinking age should be 18. You tell me you can go to Iraq and Afghanistan and get your legs and arms blown off, but you can't have a beer? Screw that. I don't believe that at all. No question the drinking age should be brought down to 18. You expect kids to go to college and not get wasted? That doesn't make any sense. That's un-American, okay? So now, of course, you shouldn't overdo it. And, you know, some people drink themselves to death, and I can't tell you how stupid that is. Just get drunk properly, okay? Get a good, clean buzz going on, you know, just enough for you to have enough courage to go hit on girls, and everybody's having fun. That's my view of it.
Final note, the most sober university. Did you read?
No.
Oh, okay, guess what it was?
I don't know. It's Harvard.
No. Religious university, I'll give you a hint.
Oh, really? Liberty?
No, BYU.
Oh, yeah.
But are you surprised?
Yeah, my bad. I should have guessed that right away. Who goes to BYU, man?
I know, seriously.
Unless you're like serious-ass Mormon, who goes to BYU? Because we did that story about how they discriminate against their minority athletes. And like the white kids are having sex left and right, no problem. Black kid on the basketball team has sex and is stupid enough to admit it. I'd have denied it all the way. I'd be like, oh, you want to get into my bed? What's the matter with you, you perv, right? Okay, but he admits it, and they kick him off the team, and they're like, ha, we got him. And no, look, we did a long story about that. It's not just one case, it's not anecdotal evidence. They broke it down, the number of minorities that were kicked off of teams and lose their scholarships and have their lives ruined based on having sex or breaking one of those rules at BYU is so much higher, like astronomically higher than the number of white kids or Mormon kids that suffer the same fate. So it's total nonsense. And by the way, it's not like the white and Mormon kids aren't having sex. Okay, so that was a great story that we did back in the day. So don't get me started on BYU, but it's too late.
I know, seriously.
Okay, if you're not a deep religious Mormon, you ought to have your head examined if you go to BYU. Okay, go to Ohio University. Everybody's apparently having fun there. Kick-ass Halloween parties. on that alone, like, what's funny is that I've gotten like. I was going to say I've gotten dumber as I've gone along. I don't know if I've gotten more immature, whatever it is, right? But like back when I was applying for colleges, I was like, what are the top colleges I can get into? Now looking back on it, I'm like, I want to tell like young Jake, take it easy, man. It's going to be okay.
Because you enter the real world and you realize that it doesn't freaking matter which school you went to.
Yeah, and instead you go to University of Florida, which is a great school anyway, and have the time of your life. You're in Florida. Do you know how many hot chicks go to University of Florida? And you know how hard they party? Come on, man. All right, I'm going to have a talk with Prometheus when he grows up. All right. Are we out of time? Are we taking a break? What are we doing?
We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and do more stories because you cut into my time earlier.
That's right. That's what's going to happen. How do you like them apples?